Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. My name is Laura Henriksen. I'm the Director of Learning and Community Engagement at the Poetry Project. It is such a pleasure to be here with you all and an honor to welcome tonight's readers, Justin, Phillip, Reed, and Trevor Ketner, and also the wonderful Wayne Koestenbaum to introduce Trevor. Before I turn it over to them, I just have a few reminders and updates. Tonight's moderator, Corey Hutchinson, is adding a link to the chat now with some helpful Zoom tips and best practices. Please note that we are recording tonight's event. You are welcome to have your cameras on or off as you prefer, but just keep in mind that if you have your cameras on, it's possible your little tile will be included in the archived video. I also want to note that it's possible to access a live transcript of tonight's event by clicking that little red live link in the top left and selecting View Stream, which will open the transcript in another browser window. If you have any Zoom questions or run into any difficulties, please don't hesitate to reach out to anyone with staff after their name, and we'll be glad to help. So too, and crucially, if you experience or notice any maliciousness in the chat, please reach out to anyone on staff so that we can work to resolve that right away. We are grateful to you for joining us in the ongoing effort to build and nurture safer spaces where we can listen and learn together. Corey is now adding to the chat a link to our statement of safer spaces. Whenever we gather, sharing our time, even if not our physical space, we remain committed to building with you all an environment that challenges and resists ongoing structures of hierarchy and harm. If this event were taking place in our usual venue, we would be gathered together now in St. Mark's Church in the Bowery, where we have hosted events for more than 50 years. St. Mark's Church was built over the site where Peter Stuyvesant constructed his family chapel in 1660. Stuyvesant enslaved 40 people, and in his time as Director General of New Netherlands, increased the population of enslaved Africans in the colony, whose stolen lives and labor were used to construct the buildings and streets on this stolen land. St. Mark's Church is located on the unceded homeland of the Lenape people, Lenape-Hoking. I am speaking to you tonight from what is called Sunset Park in Brooklyn, which is the unceded homeland of the Canarsie, a Munsee-speaking band of Lenape people, a neighborhood whose waterfront was redlined in the 1930s, a waterfront that is now the site of Municipal Detention Center, a federal prison where 1,600 people are currently experiencing incarceration. As we gather across various neighborhoods and states, it gives me occasion to remember that it's not just some of the land that was stolen or some of the land that needs to be returned, but all of it. It reminds me, too, that to return the land is not a matter of transferring capitalist ownership, but, as many Indigenous thinkers have taught us, a radical rethinking of ownership and belonging, centering Indigenous autonomy and active relationality and responsibility. To reiterate Gloria Anzaldua's assertion, this land was Lenape-Hoking always and is and will be again. Corey is putting a link to a map in the chat now, not to endorse it as complete, but to invite you to join us in learning continually about the land we occupy, its history and ties, as a path towards deeper accountability. Thank you for reflecting on this with me. Before I move on to the total privilege of introducing Justin Phillip Reed, I'd love to take a moment to invite you all to consider becoming members of the Poetry Project. We are doing a membership drive through the month of April, which some of you may already know because you may have already received an email from me this week. We feel so lucky that we get to host these readings and lectures and other events, and we get to offer them for free to anyone who'd like to join us, while still materially supporting the artists and poets who perform and publish here. These are things we get to do because of the incredible generosity of our members and donors. If it's possible for you to join us as a member at any level, we are truly humbled and grateful. Corey is putting a link to join in the chat now. And if it's not possible for you right now, that's also cool. We're already humbled and grateful that you're here. Thank you. And now to the readings. Justin Phillip Reed's The Malevolent Volume is a spider's web. It's the spider. It's the thing ensnared in the silk. Or that's me, the reader, asked to examine the web and in so doing to understand my complex and multiple locations within it. These poems, both muscular and sinewy, and also otherworldly as ether, demonstrate the intricacy of relating in the world as we find it, as it finds us, looping like a runner being chased around a track. Quote, The clutch at the mercy of a mind, at the mercy of a trigger, at the mercy of the mind, at the mercy of the clutch. Quote, I had slithered hungrily after the end of me to learn that all I'm made of is beginnings. These poems excavate myth, the myth of white supremacy, the myth of the United States, twin monsters that everywhere they look see monsters of their own invention. Quote, they are looking for proof of the devil. They have no interest in their kingdom's architecture. Quote, my monster had no first breath and none after. I wanted it too broke to be robbed, which seemed as much a myth as my creating anything that they would not eventually exploit, end quote. These poems know that it's not necessary to look for proof of the devil when you're already up to your throat in the devil's work, trying to find something that can't be taken away. The dead of these poems are everywhere, as is the way of the dead, to be in everything, haunting, both passively and actively, plaintive or vicious. Quote, mine was the express mission of uncountable spirits, reaching in ceaselessly to relink their fingers. Quote, the dead remember us as objects in their paths, end quote. These poems know it's a myth to think the dead are at the mercy of our memory. No, it's the living who are carried by the dead. The music of these poems enchants me, like a song heard in a story about the woods where a witch might live, a song that might curse or save the listener, but you will never know which one, or if it's already too late, or if it's only just begun. Quote, I can't tell a courting from a fight song after all. Dang, end quote. Justin Phillip Reed is an American writer and amateur bass guitarist whose preoccupations include horror cinema, poetic form, morphological transgressions, and the uses of the grotesque. He's the author of 2 poetry collections, the Malevolent Volume and Indecency, both published by Coffee House Press. Born and raised in the PD region of South Carolina, he participates in vague spirituality and alternative rock music cultures and enjoys smelling like outside. It's such an honor to turn it over now to Justin Phillip Reed.
Great. Thank you so much, Laura, for that introduction. I was not prepared to think so much about the Malevolent Volume tonight because I don't plan on reading from it, except for, I think I got 2 poems in the set list from it. But it's really an honor to be here reading with Trevor and with Wayne introducing, and I was so intimidated by that little detail that I volunteered to go first, so this is where I am. I remember I was listening to a podcast like a couple of weeks ago that Wayne was on, and just hearing him speak through, I think, the most unravelable like tumbles of thought, and as if it's nothing. And I was like, no, there's no way I just want to go after that whole phenomenon. So here I am. And I also haven't read much this year, so this is going to be a little weird. I think I'm losing any iota of social etiquette that I used to have. This poem is titled, Every Cell in This Country Looks Like a Choice You Can Walk In and Out Of. Does a man with no intentions know he means you only harm? If lodged in this scar were a pearl of such precise damage, no tongue could lift it. Either I am talking about my ex-lover or I am talking about the president. Every choice in this cell looks like a country he can walk in and out of. Here was a kind of kingdom. If I call him king, then he is. If he is late, it is the waste kingdom. If a king, there's elsewhere a slave, and to a mule, the grass can't grow quickly enough into the mouth of. Beneath this same pulled-tooth moon, I drop my body like an axe head into a bed of blue-lipped weeds the king's highway rides its joys through. A crisis at my navel lifts the century out of turn. In the buzz of his country's decay, I give a form to the chaos. He loves to say he hates me, meaning his need to use me confuses him. I want to say I love me in a language of a place where it is possible. This is a stark mood with few conditions. The kingdom wears a skirt of woods, busy insects to signify health, a flag crested with, and fuck that motherfucker, yes, that should have been its whole name. Yes, I am delectable, and therefore a spiral of buzzards descends in helix, or a whole horde of countrymen perfects the custom of puzzling my flesh. He licks the femur of a thing that many hands ago was me. He says, if you want to be enough, be both. He is talking about my bullet casket carcass, or he is talking about how fuckable I looked laid roadside in red. The title of this next poem is "This Is Really Happening." I don't know if I was thinking of Rosemary or Radiohead when I wrote that, but whatever. Such an odd cloud overcame the nation at that time. A damp breeze, and where a storm should be, defiance. In it, the litter of scorched marigolds fidgeted on the ground against my feet. My fists still pinched their stems as I metronomed now toward my life in poems, and then I want to live. Tore my accountability to a community from I can't bear to be among. Turned from violence as a resort to the careful pursuit of beauty, and back. At each extreme, the pieces I ripped apart from the blossoms fell either way, all to the ground. I brooded like this often as a child. In one summer, another cousin plucked me from a mood, unfolded and draped my back across an anthill. I was briefly a glimmer struck burning in a gust, a wild down the mountainside scream, but quickly, as my body slammed into place around my sobs and my sobs like doused coals quit, I became small and defeated and invested in the magic of palms and soft hymns. In the song of my grandmother's balm, what was it? There was only every single ant's explicit sting in the cache of what my flesh had recollected. I expected at that time, in that country, for the knowledge of corporal damage and how to manage it to make itself useful. People, poetry, severity, I was lonely for a tool. From where I stood beneath the new weird weather in a hindsight, disturbed at my being older and colorful in this lately precarious matter of facts, the climate, for example, an opinion, as I watched my orange indecision twitch in the sensitivities of wind charloting across the black soil. I felt still so miniature and humiliated by the number of creatures who could summarize themselves into inflicting harm that I too could hardly believe the world wasn't quite the way that I remembered. Okay, so I am going to read so a couple of things that aren't really poems and aren't really essays. And they're all about or in conversation with films, and specifically horror films for the most part. That's what I do now. And that's been really fun for me. I've kind of lost all the zeal that I used to put into reading a shit ton of poetry books and replaced it with horror films. But today is a really special day because it is the birthday of my beloved friend Erin Rose Major, and also of the poet Don Lundy Martin. So I'm going to read this first piece, which is after the film Gothica, for Dawn and Erin Rose. I first brought this piece to a workshop that Dawn was teaching at KaveCon. Check the time. And this is titled Logic and Optics, Gothica, 2003. I think the only things you need to know about it are casting. Halle Berry played the lead, Miranda. Chloe is portrayed by Penelope Cruz. Doug is portrayed by Charles S. Dutton. And then Robert Downey Jr. is like somebody who I don't think even gets named in the essay or yeah, the thing. All right, Logic and Optics, Gothica. The camera single tracks the psychologist's elasticity from her doom. The hues are blue, the inmate uniforms, 7 gates and 2 swinging steel doors, semicolon, the distance between Miranda and her preoccupation, Chloe, who is being overfed sedatives. Chloe's, quote, embellishing her rape story. To Miranda, the distance seems far. In this horror, the men are believable. They are the arbiters of belief, the phallologicians. They tend to correct. Correction is tenderness, is a courtesy. There was no girl. She died 4 years ago. You killed Doug. We are your family now. You're in crisis. This image is tailor-made for your mind. You better start thinking of some answers. Delusions, hallucinations, frequent derailment, incoherence. I have to tell you something very difficult, the film says in the direction of someone who seems not to know. How do you know it was the devil? The first ghost is possession itself. Every night a man arrives, anonymous and without a trace, takes what he wants from Chloe. No, the trace is on Chloe's face. They say she did it to herself. Chloe is Miranda's patient. Another man wants to fuck Miranda, but Miranda is his boss's wife. Until then, she's mine. Another man bites into a telephone. He's the boss. Miranda is his wife. Chloe is his ward. He's the chief of medicine. He's a doctor discussing a prisoner. The prisoners all are women. He rejects a lawyer's transfer request, then instructs Miranda to throw water on a mirror, invites her to participate in metaphor. I have to tell you something, says the film. She calls herself the mirror. He calls himself God. God is married to a mirror, the film provides, as God prods her mouth with tongue, then leaves to strangle a white girl chained in the basement of a farmhouse they own. He shares this weekend recreation with his best friend, the sheriff, who is white and possesses this closet of God. God and the sheriff kill women together. Miranda metaphors herself secure. This is a prison. It operates in frames, she in observations. It is safe to swim during a lightning storm, for instance. All the other doctors are men, if you can believe it. Chloe is embellishing her rape story again. The second ghost is surveillance, the ultimate dom. It determines the motions of everyone. There is the white girl that Miranda sees attacking her, and then there is the nobody but Miranda that the CCTV sees tossing her own body from wall to wall of her cell. There was no girl. The sheriff and Doug show love to each other through exchanging video of what they do, which determines what sense Miranda can make what she and an axe have done to Doug. The video determines that there was indeed a girl, many girls. The white girl ghost achieves in her deathly restlessness a certain omniscience. She watches from within glass surfaces, leaves the message not alone in breath and blood in Miranda's skin, knows exactly where and to whom what happened to her is happening now. If Miranda can abide the violence the ghost inflicts upon her, she'll come to this knowledge also. As recompense for her ignorant complicity in the husband's murder spree, she'll have to see herself dismember him live and screaming. She'll have to work hard toward the other side of detention. The dead white girl can open a prison door, but Miranda must swing the axe. The distance expands and contracts. A camera carves into space what an overtiming prose writer at a might makes a detail. I have to tell you something else that I've been giving my attention. Quote, you can't trust someone who thinks you're crazy. Chloe defines double consciousness for Miranda. You are not a doctor in here, and even if you tell the truth, no one will listen. The camera pans in the design of Miranda's spiraling. The camera has a man's hand on it, a man's hand in the script in her mouth. Miranda says, I'm dreaming 9 times in 21 seconds. Every 3 seconds, she fails to correct her reality. She slaughtered the husband. She's bathed in his blood. In the mirror, the white girl jumped out. The white girl's vengeance put Miranda in cells. What the men believe keeps her there. The sheriff tries to kill her in the jail. These cops are life-sized. This horror is water on a mirror. The film is a frame from the edge of which men whisper in their observations. They're collaged in an eloquent synopsis. It culminates in conjunctions of gas and light. The men must be believed when they tell you something you seem not to know. This next piece is a poem, I guess, and I'm reading it for Aaron Rose. It's after the film, The Killing of a Sacred Deer by Yorgos Lanthimos, or it's really just about watching it. Eat, Fuck, or Kill, The Killing of a Sacred Deer, 2017. 4 full-grown hounds stand transparent in the corners of the white basement. All at once they sprint, they maul a small rabbit in the middle of the air, the sterile excellence of walls vaults. A morning star of entrails, it is marvelous, twinkles between their democratic jaws. Massacre on a mobile floating in the gallery / a pop-up book in which a paper petunia flakes off of the grommet the moment you open it. Its sadistic direction, I whine until Aaron Rose texts, but does Lanthimos even want to fuck you though? I think Lanthimos is more of a shame and leave. Agree. He's bored by role play. His camera is a barrel aimed at character. Colin Farrell as the nucleus of suspended disbelief is a struggle. A cardiothoracic surgeon kills his son and gets to split the stimulus check fewer ways. Nicole looks over the bullshit and sleepy. The basement, it's apparent, keeps gnawing the rabbit's magic bones with the bones in its invisible mouths. Walk, 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 the red gestures. The point is pointless, wealthy, and personal violence. This is a piece titled, oh, happy birthday, Aaron Rose. This is a piece titled After the First Purge 2019, and in the pandemic, I had to start looking at people for real. A question is whether Kendrick's All Right is / was its own moment, or rather a cue for many moments of one predominant kind, the praise break, for instance. Moment into which you can be unindividuated as any single serif in the paragraph, provided you keep moving. Moment you don't need to know all the words for and would be forgiven making up your own. A moment, nonetheless, you are presumed enthused to participate in, no matter what music it's known you'd rather have move you. Because the movement doesn't appear to be about Kendrick as a mover, just as the spirit is not your great-great-grandmother's slaver's God, though it matters as much in either case who is absent and not invited to be touched in its midst. In the communal movement, a contract is drawn toward the conditions of ecstasy. Its terms are roughly, I come in. I carry experience in the flesh like a water cone filled to the lip. And then I begin to sway. We each get in the sway till all us shake, experience spilling over and out of and over into. You could be thus emptied of what you come in here with, or I could help you carry it. I think that to misperceive this mess of experience, this wet de-stress as a fluid exchange of struggle, strife, or a shake-offable devil is an overconfidence in the success of colonial terror. Some people just have so much joy yet to spare. I'm fucked up, homie, you fucked up, I told the storm to pass. All right occurs like a change in air pressure. It augurs a particular weather. Everyone hears all's my life I has to fight and makes preparations to visit the opposite of fight upon one another. What does a film that smells this lamb's blood and all right hope to say about itself by ending there? Black movie with its Black director in which the federal government as the lone gunman, as the Klan do everything to on-screen Black folks as Black folks off-screen already know the federal government of the lone gunman of the Klan been doing to Black folks forever, sometimes for the screen and all within an hour and a half. A trap lord hero needs a good Christian woman, but at least Spencer Williams didn't write Staten Island, and we are thrilled to see ourselves as Black Rambo picking off a small militia. After this movie, Dylan roofed a whole congregation, sound effects considered so completely you can hear the screaming down an alley the other end of the street. Because Elon is fine, and don't you want a veiny fist that can throw 3 fat asses around at once? The resilience with which he steps over every hashtag bleeding out down the high-rise projects, my God. One thing about representation is people swear they want to be shown face, and what they mean is hold that pose, how they do. They can't actually see you, and I don't mean because it's necessarily impossible to see anyone, but because at the risk of truly recognizing how unimpressively sad and ramshackle of spirit it is perfectly possible to be in this world at this age, they might see how, for all that good, impeccably paratactic shit they talk about overcoming sadness like a brush fryer chewing the ass of a hedge maze, it hasn't diminished the solitude of that waterlogged park bench in the center with the sagging slats. To them, if you can cockstrut in front of a ruin, no one gets to call it devastation. But won't you celebrate with them? All right at the end credits of the first purge is an apology with bruh man's slouch and grin, or my actual brother's usurping anyone's horror with his own humor, like, my bad, but that shit was slick, and he sure thinks so, or, but did you die? No, not every movement and commune is divine, and some of that spirit is parasitic, and you know what? I'm sick of y'all. Your mentorships on highnesses, your creepy righteousness after assault, euphorias you extract from draggings, your but did you dies, big dogs swinging your black care. You want everlasting gratitude for keeping the kids sick. You like the sweet, sweet fever on their foreheads, how it steams. You dream like the Department of Education and no one can leave who feels good as hell getting paid. I get it. We eatin', so why the fuck am I tripping? I get to stand next to you in debt to your self-services, but you don't want to look the part. You just want it to be about the art, but no one stands close enough to get put through it. Strung along and bitched across the good glistening walls because who's gonna do for us like us? You ugly because I'm ugly. All my life I had to fight my life. But we present one front, one people, one proudly limping panther the camera eye fucks with its gaping frame. Slum, we loyally forgive you for loving to see gutted. And no one juking the protest music watches you follow me inside, where you say, I make you do this. Follow me inside, I mean. Cool. I'm just gonna do like 2 more short poems. I think they actually look like poems from an engagement with Ganja and Hess that is ongoing. Ganjan Hess is a 1973 film by Bill Gunn, and it was commissioned by a big studio during the blaxploitation horror cycle after Blackula. They wanted another Black vampire film, and Gunn was not really about that shit, so he kind of just took the money and made this very beautiful auteur love story. And it's streaming on Shudder. You should check it out if you haven't seen it. Thank God your horrors outweigh your manners. We are not permitted the image of his visage above an empty noose. I've mentioned to you previously the etiquette of lamps. When the night is this heavy, you have to straddle it. I am the only horse on the block. Trotting up to my house is a trick I was taught. I'm proficient in the language of trespass, quote, my tree, quote, my rope. I get to elope with empire and use words like hope. Deleuze remarks that such devices as the director's self-decapitation in this frame suggest a, quote, transspatial and spiritual whole outside homogeneous space and time. Together in their twin outfits, the bisections of Hess and Maida make one suicide. It is nearly the getup that Jones's Ben wore to his lynching at the end of Night of the Living Dead. The noose hangs like ego, bulb of a man's idea, brief as the sun. But the mind is as wide as the night, which is the return of eternity. You cannot adequately light a black thought. Western philosophy is a byproduct of slave labor. I am able to hear myself think either by way of rebellion or because one is being suppressed. I was a victim on one hand, and on the other hand, I was a murderer. Thank God for horrors. What conditions make possible this poetry? The truth of the thing. I love you. You floor me. I have loved you and been floored. I fell for you. I hit the floor. I'm in love and on the floor. Blood continues hitting the tiles. It glides over grout. It slides out a mouth that I made in my head, having loved you in a way hardly regular. It is as red as a convertible, Christ's robe at supper. I don't know why I think love looks like somebody on a floor, or a dinner table broken in two, or a fist where fits the handle of a pistol I haven't yet faced in person, though I know a man who loves me has for me one or the other. Yes, I'm thinking of my brother whom I've bled, what he owes me. I always got my ass whooped in bathrooms. You remind me of him, and quietly I like it. One of you will destroy me. Anonymous gospel will open in the shape of a horn in an off-camera corner of the room, open as the mouth on the floor, blood thick from a spigot, spill of magnesium milk, thick wad of wasp larvae, the spider's open abdomen, red as the bone of an aesthete. I love you to the floor. I think that's my time. Thanks very much for spending time with us and for having me.
Justin, thank you so much. Your work just amazes me, and I mean, really, all I want is like an entire encyclopedia of not poems, not essays about horror films, and poems about horror films. That was just brilliant. Thank you so much. And I am so excited to turn it over now to Wayne Koestenbaum to introduce Trevor Ketner.
Am I audible now? Okay, sip of water. Big thank you, Justin, for that brilliant work. What an experience to have dwelled within it for that time. And I look forward to continuing to dwell in your words for a long time. So thank you. Really brilliant. Trevor. Trevor Ketner is a necromancer, an alchemist, a collagist. I love Trevor's work because they are a formalist, not in the old straightened sense, but in a naughty, revivified fashion. Trevor is a deformalist, a transformalist, a nonconformalist, an informalist. I discovered their work when I was a judge for the Poetry Project's Emerge Surface B Fellowship competition. Among the many remarkable writers whose work I had the privilege to read, Trevor's poems stood out and immediately grabbed my senses because a principle of erotic and magical play seemed to govern the choice of every word in every line. Trevor wanted to sing the body electric, but not to reify the body or make us believe that we understood it. Trevor's body electric was a scattered, torn, reassembled, composite body, concocted from found pieces of language sent through a translation machine that refreshed the borrowed limbs and made them capable of a kink unsurpassed by any edge-oriented poetry I'd heretofore read. The kink, in Trevor's case, was conceptual as well as visceral. The kink consisted in how wittily Trevor demonstrated that linguistic disjunction could produce a landscape of erotic imaginaries unconfined by any narratives and identities we might devise to tame the unruly experience. Trevor's scenarios, bucolic, Sadian, Shakespearean, Rauschenbergian, scenarios that would have made Chaucer and Pasolini giggle together over their grog and their Ganymedes. Trevor's scenarios made me, as reader, try to dream up the true story of Trevor, a story that they would never literally tell, but only fictively disperse like dropped hairpins over the festal table. Trevor's poems give me what I want most from contemporary literature, a sense that we can jam our language and our bodies together with a wildness that the fathers never told us was possible. Trevor is the author of White, in brackets, all caps, White, to be published this year by the University of Georgia Press. The book was selected as a winner of the National Poetry Series by Forrest Gander. Their chapbooks include Negative of a Photo of Fire, White Combine, a portrait of Robert Rauschenberg, and Major Arcana, Minneapolis, winner of the Burnside Review Chapbook Contest, judged by Diane Seuss. They have widely published as poet, essayist, and reviewer. A 2020 Lambda Literary Fellow, they have been a Poets House Emerging Poets Fellow, as well as a Saltonstall Foundation for the Arts Fellow. Trevor holds an MFA from the University of Minnesota and lives in Manhattan with their husband in an apartment, not this apartment that we now see, but in an apartment I've seen several times on Zoom, because I've had the good fortune of being in conversation this past fall and winter with Trevor as his mentor in the Emerge Surface B program. But I can say that Trevor has been my mentor too. Their work guides me to try to be more bold, more rigorous, more procedural, more arcane, more corporeal, more intricate. Trevor seems to take unadulterated pleasure in the act of writing. I learned from that pleasure glistening everywhere in their work, which combines carnival and code, plangency and interruption, sorcery and measurement. Welcome, Trevor, to the stage. Teach us tonight the nature of your measure, which seems to follow the beat of an ungovernable bliss.
Well, thank you, Wayne. And I'm not entirely sure how one follows up that intro because it was truly kind of beautifully written. I just admire you so deeply. And I also admire you so deeply, Justin. Those poems were essays, poems were truly, truly remarkable. I cannot wait to spend more time with them, just as Wayne was saying. So I was originally going to read from White, but I think that there's a bit more resonance, maybe to start with the poems that Wayne was alluding to in his intro, which is this set of what I'm calling divinations. Basically, I'm taking Shakespeare's sonnets line by line and making them queer as fuck. Like that's kind of the goal. And the way that I'm doing that is I'm anagramming each line. Every line of my poem has every single letter of the line from the Shakespeare poem. And I am doing that for all of the sonnets. I reached sort of a mile marker this week and hit sonnet 100, which like feels like a lot. And then also like there are 54 more to go. So like, don't sit on your ass. So I'm going to read some of those poems. I feel like that's where we're at. And then I'll probably circle back and read some from White. So yeah, I'll get us started. I do want to say these poems have a lot of sexual material. They're pretty explicit. They're about queerness. They're about transness. They're about kink. And so there's some language. There's some situations, we'll call them. And so I just want to let anybody who might be sensitive to that know that's happening. To get us started, look in thy glass and tell the face thou viewest. Synthetic floodgate, elk howl, unleash vase/tit/oath. To witness that macho hem I ruffled one, wasp wine, wolf/hunt/reforest. Shine, O tree, lush in mothered mood, trowels glut. See south ebb, swish of brood, rare ewe wine, farmhouses. Ghostly fish head. Daily I start/unbend, white floweriness, blob, mouth/hood/footsie, the silver of slit, top pose. Hetero man he thirst, stags holy sun death, lovably lip them holes, reap arc flicker. I hound, oh, I set to hug holes fearless thaw, gown, foreskin, let me get dishonest, I ply width, I mouth orb, I meet bone, verb led tuft inside, I heat, a sweetening middle height. Unthrifty loveliness, why dost thou spend? Fleshy stud/nip void. Holy hurts went stone, lacy, petty. They bang. You flesh us, stun. Another ghost bed, sung. I vent/bled quiet. Able transfer/kindness gene/hoofed heart. Sub gushes a hydra. Bone note duet. Tug it how I have. Teeth, beg, volunteer. Gut songs so they sour. Lush furs, sir, sewed up. To a soft stammer nags us. Coven tilts you half off. Slit re-entry, a hiving fact. Who woofed? They test soft chests, fully heed teeth. Echo a whole glen/burst neon thaw. I sat. ACAT/watch ANOVA deep cut. Bullet thumbed bony amethyst bud, wet it. Hudus lush witches I doe hex butter cove. Music to hear, why hearest thou music sadly? Hum or hue, domesticity casts a raw hush. Joyless sets, wet, torn. Whitewashed twig/toy twitch. Hives hue, clove thaws the hour. I set ulcer/rose wreath. Lean pine thieves. Fecund fount/cold deli. Nowhere rusts to hear. Unbidden, it is a Monday. Roof fern/housewife honeydew, etch the clot dot by hustling it. Throated hunt, shapeless sun, wideness, woman sun, unhooked tag, tart herb, amateur checkerboard hiss, I lie/I lie more, nymphs branching. Add pelt, dash a long neon one. I pawn so swelling heat, phone song/cable mess, semen swigs hygiene, tit photo/girlish lush, sweet nesting. Mine eye hath played the painter and hath stelled. Heap name thinly, heart/epithet, a dandy/boy. Butterfly mayhem, a fresh no at it. Me, shady hole. Friends, myth, I tire/web. A ripped, repair, stitched attentiveness to femur hue. Tiger, so hunt. Phase/history/mud/heredity. Lung, water to cure. If I rope him, sash on thigh. Symbolic gown, I snip width/swath. Idols, haze wet. Hint, hag thin/androgynous. I shoes, wow. Fat he tree, feathery meadow/ashen hind. Enemy pant/shiver. Say, I hurt. A gown worn, butters wet. Home. Shred he to whole. Anesthetize tip, edge. Then grope hyacinth/sanguine newt. Tree rot/stag cry. Tie the house down, tent. Why that water? They break. Those petty wrongs that liberty commits. To crypt, to mesh, shy genital stem, brow/tit/testament. Momentary he womb, I hear fish, flat eye, fry subtly. Hit/welt unabashedly. If oral mutt, then low woof. Leather strip, lots of ornate teeth. Weed lung/hornet, abort the beauteous root or fleshed area. Tit abuse, a shadow want, a woman now owns no shame. Suave level, eel. Livers ill with hard, holy pear/amethyst tea. Tug that, memory. I free boy sub by untying, hydrates, nudity/arch/heat. Today I her, invite nether hate/heal. Root dew thawed. Butch, word/fur/flare. Took her to rotate, them to the bath, the ruby tinge. Eyes pry at gay belt. A boy, yes, bite fig/he/him. I know these are unrelenting. I'll read one more and then we can move to something a little more narrative. So am I as the rich whose blessed key. Heed her symbolics. I soak ash sweet/porn wet. Merge silk/suture. Caned Hitachi sob/howl. They wove river hunt lyric. He hues neon plum red / stiffens, feathering out. Lobo lips snarl, foams at deer, foresees roseate horn / horniness. Edge gone comically smitten. Hot holly tea. Wild finch notes, ear perks, yet can't place the air. A new project, clean metaphysics, teeth / smoke / sea. Youth, its wet head or hide, switch hood. Earth orb, herb, moss, pistil, stamen. Sleep, a nice teak / cobalt unwinding. Hybrid of dim lispers / open cussing. Sees weather robe woods. Shy poses veil, bedding glut. Meet, hooch, point, break. And now on to something completely different. This is the first 10 pages of White. White is a book-length poem, essay poem, sort of like Justin was saying, that came out of, I will say, an obsessive, I'll call it obsessive. I'm bipolar, and I'm fairly sure I was in a manic episode. And I went to see the Rauschenberg Among Friends exhibit at MoMA a few years ago. I saw it 7 times over the course of a couple of weeks, and then proceeded to write basically what became the chapbook. That's one of the threads here in a couple of weeks after that. And I do not recommend that for anyone who's like, let's write a thing. Don't do that. That was not good or healthy for me, but it did lead to a book that I liked. So that the Rauschenberg part is one part of the book, and the other part is this series of portraits, basically, I wrote for the people I loved and got to know when I was in Minneapolis and who I was leaving to come to New York. And those poems came out of a kind of deep sadness that I was leaving a place where I kind of got to be myself for the first time. And so they came together in a very sort of magically natural way. And I'll just read these first pages from the book. Each time I enter the retrospective, quickness, sanguine intensity, and for a moment I have to stop, everyone milling around me and the art in the middle. Then I lock in again, a secret compartment in the heel of a spy shoe, once the smuggled thing, a square of mud or gold or toilet paper, white lead paint so heavy, has been removed. Rauschenberg instructs someone to write on the back of erased de Kooning drawing, do not remove drawing from frame. Frame is part of drawing, which is just that, a drawing that's been erased, an undrawing. After he, Rauschenberg, reclaims paper's beforeness, it sits on the wall, a scrim, bustle, scrape, smudge of sound applied behind it as to a stage being set. A letter from Rauschenberg to the cast of Open Score, 1966. This is identification and instruction. The stage director will direct you to move quietly upstairs and wait for your entrance. You will enter into the darkness and wait for cues. This is a continuous piece, and your entrance should be made as quietly and smoothly as possible. Open Score was a large-scale performance piece staged at the Armory as part of a 9-night performance series. The center of the piece was an unchoreographed tennis match between 2 players. Each tennis racket was wired to sound whenever it made contact with the ball. They sounded like bells in a bell tower. Each chime shut off a light until the arena went totally dark. Once darkness was complete, a group of some 500 people entered, announced their names, and faced the audience. Their ghost images were caught with infrared cameras, cutting-edge technology at the time, and projected onto large screens around the arena. Miniature / magnified mirror of the crowd / each ghost retrospectively, a shadow mimicry. Large numbers will be your director. The activities that must be executed are listed below and should be memorized. These will not necessarily appear in the order listed. 0, the fool. Wearing that dress, the floral print, with goldenrod tights. I say, of course, and mean I'm queer as fuck. There are no cliffs in Minneapolis because there are no mountains. Sky is not normally yellow, and yet here are my thick bones. I forget to shave my beard so it grows wild, thicket thick. I say, of course, and mean 0 is in the middle of the number line between every possible positive and negative. White flower in hand is flat. Flowers stitched thin into dress are flat. I grew my hair last winter, bleached it. I feel as if I'm supposed to feel like I want something. I've already got emerald slippers people in the street say they love. I've got a stick I carry with me. The stars are up there behind that color. I look for them, fall down the non-mountain, down the horizontal cliff. No one tells you there's a trail down there, but there is. When asked, de Kooning provided a drawing he thought would be especially difficult to erase completely. Charcoal and crayon, pencil, oil, and ink. Pulling it from the easel, de Kooning said, I want it to be something I'll miss. 1. Touch someone who is not touching you. 1. The magician. Line warped above his head, white headband under red table, white lilies, pink anemones. On table, an espresso, butter knife, overpriced chocolate croissant, stirring stick, recyclable. In his hand, a box of straws to fill the jar by the window. On cold days, he wears a red sweater. I found out he has 2 kids. He seems as young as anyone, an atmospheric man. I just continue failing to see myself in the water glass again. Flowers from my dress, beard, nothing twisting and pulses across the surface. I'll get up, pour more water in the glass, ask him to conjure another curve of white, some of the red in it. He points outside, another accident. Tan sedan tail bitten by identical sedan. Hubcap, star. Bed 1955. Oil, pencil, toothpaste, and red fingernail polish on pillow. Quilt and bedsheet mounted on wooden supports. Looking into the undrawing again, I can see it. Can you? The gap left in a body after a bone breaks? Just a small bone, a toe maybe, something that'll heal right up quite naturally. That would have ultimately been forgotten. Quote, a bone on the stage of a box is no bigger than a tube of lipstick, and it becomes a miniature monument. All art is violence, a positive strain, damage intent on rebuilding, the precision of an urban construction company taking to mud a pocket of steel shape and glass shape. Mud, like a square of old newspaper, like paint, suggests what we have can be more blank once we've torn it down. Rauschenberg, thinking of doing a self-portrait of inner man, prints x-rays of his 42-year-old body with a planetary chart for 1967, the year his 42-year-old body, and the piece is completed. Printed over the x-ray in red ink. It is, at the time, the largest hand-pulled print in the world. You tell me that is very gay, and I smile because you are right. And we are also very gay enough to think it's a good idea. Quote, I started using real objects from the very first. I remember in the Navy, I painted a picture of someone, and I didn't know much about painting, so I used my blood for the red. He was a Libra. Of course he was. I think I actually am probably going to stop. I have more pages, but I don't want to keep people too much later. So I'm going to turn things back over to Laura.
Oh, I wasn't ready for you to stop, Trevor. It's just such amazing, amazing work. Thank you so much for reading. And maybe we can put in the chat again. We're so lucky to have a special pre-order link for Trevor's forthcoming book. So everyone be sure to get on that. Thank you so much, Trevor. Thank you so much, Wayne, for that beautiful introduction. We're so lucky to be able to offer the Emerge Surface B Fellowship Program and the work that comes out of it. We're just really honored to get to be a part of in this way. And thank you again, Justin, for that really, really beautiful reading. Thank you all so much for being here. I hope that you will join us next week. We have 4 readings next week. We have a free class focused on the erotics of space. We have an event, a bilingual transnational event on Salvadoran cinema, and so much more. So please do come back, become a member if you can. Thank you all so very much for being here. We'll put on some music. Feel free to stay and hang out for a little bit. Put your praise and thank you in the chat, and take good care. I'll see you again soon, I hope. Bye.